As we reach the final stretch of a long 8-year period since the official launch of Subnautica in 2018, it would seem that the hype surrounding Subnautica 2 has built up quite a bit now that it's so close to finally being released. And if you're as excited for Subnautica 2 as I am, then you'll definitely be interested in all the crazy new info that has just been shared with us by Unknown Worlds. So let's get into it. Starting with the most obvious, and that is going to be the graphical enhancements. This game has had a major graphical overhaul and a complete change in engine. If you played Subnautica 1, you will know that it was built around the Unity engine, whereas Subnautica 2 is going to go with Unreal Engine 5. Now, no Unreal Engine 5, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Unreal Engine 5, particularly when it comes to performance, because as we've seen in the past, Unreal Engine 5, although it does look visually very impressive, as it can be a little bit more demanding and also be a little bit unoptimized in some ways. However, it does seem like Subnautica 2 is indeed going to go with Unreal Engine 5. Like many other survival crafters also do tend to favor using Unreal Engine, and this is reflected in the system requirements, which you can see is quite substantially higher than that of Subnautica 1, and this is obviously going to be in large part due to the engine shift. Now, it does seem this is also going to come with quite a few perks. Lighting is going to be one that is going to be greatly enhanced in Subnautica 2. You're going to see a lot more detail in the lighting as well as increased quality in the volumetrics. You're also going to notice that there's going to be a lot of subsurface scattering, and there's also going to be quite a bit of light bouncing off of various other light sources. Certain coral and other objects are going to give off ambient light, and this is going to make things look a lot better. It is also going to support co-op, which we'll discuss a little bit later on the video, but it does seem like the graphical enhancements are going to be quite noticeable in Subnautica Part 2, and it's definitely going to be a big step up from Part 1 if you have the hardware to run it. And in addition to the graphical enhancement, there's also going to be a lot of improvements when it comes to the AI of the creatures that you're going to see in the world of Subnautica 2, as well as increased animation quality when it comes to the various creatures. And this is going to help make the world feel a lot more alive, and this is going to lead to the next point, which is going to be environmental storytelling is something the developers have put a lot of emphasis on, and I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out when the game comes out. It's been described that certain biomes are going to feel very distinct from one another, with some biomes where you're going to notice that the creatures are going to behave differently when certain threats are present. So you might see situations where maybe there's going to be a apex predator within that biome, or a leviathan, where perhaps when that leviathan or apex predator does end up entering or start approaching the surrounding biome, you might see all the creatures might suddenly scatter or hide away, and this might give you an early warning that maybe there is going to be a potential threat that is approaching you. This is going to be able to make the game a lot more immersive, and there's also situations described by developers where potentially you might be exploring and a certain creature might not necessarily attack you to kill you, but it might pull you down into a deeper, darker part of the map, but then you are going to be trapped, or you're going to be finding yourself in an unknown environment, and you're going to need to get out because there might be much bigger threats around. So situations like that are going to be greatly enhanced in Subnautica 2, and it's going to make the world feel a lot more alive, and it's going to also make things feel a lot scarier in my opinion, which I think I'm very excited for this feature. I can't wait to see how they're going to end up telling a story through the environment, and how they're going to increase the immersion with the various interactions with all the wildlife you're going to see in the world. Now, speaking of the world, not only is it going to be a new engine, but there's going to be an entire new world to explore. Subnautica 1 took place on the planet 4546b, whereas Subnautica 2 is going to take place on a world known as Zazura. So Zazura is going to be a completely new world, which means you can expect to see completely different ecosystems, completely new biomes, as well as new creatures and new threats that are going to be present. So everything you might think you know from Subnautica 1 is not going to be the case in Subnautica 2, and I'm very excited about this. It means we're going to be able to relearn and also re-experience our first time we ended up playing Subnautica, with all the new potential threats and that constant fear of the unknown, as well as all the different potential for exploration. It is going to feel like a completely new game while still having that familiar Subnautica feel, which I'm very, very excited about. As someone that's played the first Subnautica, you can never quite forget the experience when you come across your first leviathan, or you end up going over a deep part of the ocean and something comes and jumps out at you, and it's very exciting to know that we're going to be able to relive that in an entirely new different world with new threats that we can rediscover, which I'm very happy to hear that they're using something completely new here. Now let's talk about one of the aspects of the game that I'm personally most excited for, and that is going to be the base building. Now, if you know me, I love base building in survival crafters. It's one of my favorite aspects about survival crafters, and it seems like base building in Subnautica 2 has had a major focus and a complete revamp and rebuild compared to what it was in Subnautica 1. Now, you're still going to have the same kind of overall feel to the structures in Subnautica 2, but with a lot more control and flexibility than ever before. For example, if you want to make a window, you don't have to just stick to the pre-designed and pre-constructed window shapes you get from the first game. You can now kind of add and combine and completely control control how your windows are. You can also control various other aspects of the base, as well as how you do end up connecting and placing different compartments of the base. And you can even combine certain compartments together and redesign and restructure the way the base is going to be compared to part 1, which didn't really give you that level of customization. It didn't give you that much control. In number 2 here, we're going to have significantly more opportunity to kind of showcase our creative freedom, and this is going to allow for very unique base building, and I can't wait to see what everyone is going to come up with when it comes to base building ideas. I love seeing all the different ideas that people make when it comes to base building in different survival crafters, and it looks like in Subnautica Part 2, base building is definitely going to be a major focus here, which I am very excited for. What's also going to be very exciting about the base building is with the new graphical enhancements, as well as how big the world is going to be, which is going to be quite a lot bigger than what we used to in previous Subnauticas, at least in terms of early access release. It is going to be quite exciting to find all the various new locations that we're going to be able to discover, where you can build cool bases in all the different biomes and see how these bases are going to interact with the various lighting and also unique effects of these various biomes as well. Another aspect that has also seemingly gotten quite a lot of attention is going to be vehicles. It seems like not only are we getting new vehicles, but we're also going to get redesigns of how vehicles are going to be able to be interacted with, in terms of the fact that vehicles now are going to have a lot more of a modular approach to them. When it comes to vehicles, a lot of the examples that devs end up giving was, why create two completely different vehicles when one vehicle can kind of fill the need for both? And they're not only going to give us more vehicles, but they're also going to give us a lot more options within each individual vehicle. For example, the tadpole, you're going to be able to add different modules. Like one, for example, you might add a wing module, which is going to allow the tadpole to travel a lot faster. So if you like exploring, you can kind of put that module on and you can explore the world quite quickly. And if you want to go for a more resource driven approach, you can put storage compartments on, and this is going to make you a bit slower, but it's going to mean that you can bring back a lot more resources. If you're kind of grinding materials to build a base, or you need certain resources in bulk, you can kind of put this one on, go to a specific spot, and you can then load up a lot of storage onto your vehicle. It's also going to be quite cool that not only are you going to be able to add the modular design to your vehicles, but vehicles are going to have ways to kind of detach from their modules. So for example, maybe on a tadpole, which I think is going to be this game's version of the sea moth, or maybe even the sea glider, when you maybe approach something like a cave, you might find that maybe the tadpole is a bit too big to go into the cave. However, now you can kind of press a button and this is going to detach the tadpole unit from the modular design, which means you're going to be able to go into the cave with the tadpole and then leave behind maybe your storage compartments, and then you can kind of just go back and forth, load up all the storage, and then reattach the tadpole onto the storage compartment and then exit the cave. And I really like this design. It gives you a lot more freedom when it comes to the vehicles, and it means that each vehicle can serve multiple different purposes. You're not going to be restricted to, okay, this vehicle is for mining, this vehicle is for exploring. You can kind of mix and match and make different vehicles have multiple purposes, and you can even have multiple of the same vehicle, and you can kind of dock them maybe in your moon pool and have different tadpoles that are going to serve as different purposes, which I think is very, very cool, in addition to the fact that we're also going to get new vehicles as well. Another interesting thing that I noticed in the reveals is that it does seem like there is going to be different tools you're going to need in order to mine the various resources. Now in Subnautica Part 1, you didn't really need different tools to get the different resources, with some exceptions, but for the most part, you can kind of just pick up whatever resources you needed. However, in Subnautica 2, it does seem like there is going to be different tools required in order to get different types of resources, which is going to be more in line with the typical survival crafter games. Most survival crafter games have this type of system, and it seems Subnautica 2 is kind of going towards that. What's also going to be quite notable in Subnautica 2, it does seem like the developers are going to make this game quite a community-driven approach when it comes to adding new content as well as new features to the game. It was mentioned that the game is going to provide certain systems and allow the developers to pivot ideas as well as entire game directions if need be, depending on community feedback. So they are going to be listening to everything that you say when the game is released, and they're definitely going to be open to changing things or adding things based on whatever the community says. And I'm very happy to hear this. I really love it when developers are so flexible and allow the community to kind of voice their opinions and adapt to what is liked or not liked by the community. And I'm happy Subnautica developers are going to be open to community feedback and kind of design the way the community wants the game to be built. And I'm very happy to see they're going to be carrying that over from Subnautica 1 and Below Zero to Subnautica 2 here. And for everyone out there that loves the lore of Subnautica, it does seem like Subnautica 2 is going to stay true to the overall story and lore of the game. And it's not only going to continue the narrative, but it's also going to enhance it in various ways. particularly when it comes to that environmental story touch I spoke about earlier, and that is going to make the world feel a lot more alive, and it's also going to immerse you in the story like we've never seen before, hopefully, based on what the developers spoke about. So I'm quite curious to see how they're going to continue the narrative from Subnautica 1 and how it's going to be adapted in this new world of Zazura in Subnautica Part 2. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below, what are you most excited for in Subnautica 2? What are your favorite features you've seen so far? And what do you hope to see when the game is fully released? Because I can't wait to get into it on May 14th, and I'll see you guys then. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.